The experts are predicting 12-5 in 2022 for the Los Angeles Rams. Why that is way too high. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Travis Rogers. Not only am I your host for Locked On Rams, but I also host the Rams pre- and post-game show on their flagship station, ESPN 710. Quick reminder as well, I will be out at Rams training camp coming up on Saturday from 1 until 4, doing a little Rams pregame, a little training camp show, I should say, for ESPN. So if you are out and about, please make sure that you come by and say what's up. I would love to meet anybody and everybody that is listening to this pod. So make sure that you do that. Here's what we want to talk about today on the pod. There's not a ton of open jobs on the offensive side of the ball for the Rams. We will talk about that right guard position and who may be leading the way as far as getting that starting nod. Plus, we're going to talk about a potential Ram, or a former Ram, I should say, who has left the team. And while some comments make me think that maybe he's already regretting that choice, but let's start right here. We're going to start, as we always do, by me reminding you to click that subscribe button on your podcast feed so you get it in your podcast every single day. You get it on your phone, your laptop, whatever it is. And while you're doing that, Locked On Rams on YouTube as well is a great way to take in the podcast. Okay, so this time of year, we know what's going on, right? We know that there are all sorts of predictions about who is going to do what for the upcoming season. Wins, losses, overs, unders, win totals, all of these things. And everybody's got their version. And the number that I have seen more often than not for the Rams is a record of 12-5 coming up for the 2022 season. Let's just start with this right here. If the Rams can go through the schedule that they have at 12-5, look out. That would be an absolutely fantastic regular season, right? Every game, every Sunday or Monday or Thursday, whenever you have your game, you're going in there and you expect to win, right? You expect to win every single game. But you also know that as you sit here, what is it, in the late July, and you look at it, you know you're not going 17-0. That just it doesn't happen, right? This is the NFL. All the teams are good, and you don't win every single week. So you kind of look at it a little bit more objectively, and apparently people are landing on 12-5. Here's why you don't have to be 12-5. This is a very good team, obviously. It's the defending Super Bowl champion, obviously. But tell me that there are only 5 losses in a schedule that includes a prohibitive favorite to go to the Super Bowl in the Buffalo Bills. You've got 2 games against the Arizona Cardinals, who is, they're not great, but they're also not a bad football team. You've got 2 games against San Francisco. Yes, they're playing Trey Lance at quarterback, which will probably diminish it to a certain point, but it's still 2 divisional games against 2 pretty good teams. We've got 5 games already. You've got Dallas, who knows, but Dallas is not a bad team. You've got Tampa, you've got New Orleans, you got Kansas City, you've got the Raiders, Green Bay, Denver, and you got the Chargers. There are more than 5 losses on that schedule. But here's the good news, right? While the schedule is an absolute monster, and it is, the good news is you don't have to win 12 games for all of the reasons that we just kind of brushed up against really quickly, right? Think about it like this. Are the 49ers going to win more than 12 games? No. Are the Arizona Cardinals going to win more than 12 games? No. Are the Seattle Seahawks going to win 7 games? Maybe not, right? They're in the middle of an entire teardown / rebuild / we don't know what the heck's going on here. If the Rams win 11 games, I feel really good about where they are in their division. If the Rams win 10 games, I'm not so sure that 10-7 wouldn't be good enough to win the NFC West, just because of what we're talking about in the rest of it. Now, 10-7 doesn't put you in the top seed in the NFC. 10-7 probably doesn't put you in the number 2 seed in the NFC, but it puts you in the picture. And like we saw last year, I'm not so sure that where you play or what your seeding is makes all that big of a difference. Number one, sure, you get that extra week. You only have to play 3 games to get to the Super Bowl or to win the Super Bowl instead of 4. Makes a difference to be sure. But other than that, I don't know if there's a huge difference between 2 through 7. Yeah, you'd rather be at home than not. You'd rather be at home more often than not. You'd rather have to not go play a top seed. I understand how it works. My point is, though, the Rams went into Tampa and won that game. The Rams have gone into Seattle and won playoff games. The Rams have gone into New Orleans and won playoff games. Of all the things that we talk about with Sean McVay and the wonderful job that he's done with this team since coming over, one thing that maybe we don't mention nearly enough is how good the Rams are on the road. The Rams are road warriors. This is not one of those, hey, we got to go all the way to the East Coast, or we got to go to London, or we got back-to-back weeks in the Eastern time zone, or we got to go here. No, it's not really their one kryptonite, and maybe this falls into something about seeding, is weather. And they haven't had a ton of experience in it, right? That Green Bay last year could have potentially been something tricky. That Chicago in the middle of winter, they play outside. But this is not a team that is probably going to have to play a lot of cold weather games, maybe with the exception of the 2 teams that I just mentioned right there. Chicago's probably not going to be in that caliber at that level. While 12-5 would be terrific, it's not necessary. And look, more importantly than how many games they win is how healthy are they by the time that you're done with week 17. When they're done with their schedule, and let's take a quick look here. Their final game is on the road at Seattle on January 8th. That's their final game of the season, regular season game of the season. If they're healthy, if the following players are healthy, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, the offensive line, right? Probably 1 or 2 other people. If you're generally healthy, and you're going to be missing guys, it's the NFL, it'll be week 18 at that point. If you're missing guys, that's fine. You can't miss any of those guys. Or you certainly can't miss a lot of those guys for a period of time. Their win total, far less important than the health and the fact that they're in the field. If they're a division champ and they're the 4th place team, last year, that's what it was, great. If you're a wild card team and you stubbed your toe because, I don't know, Aaron Donald missed a couple of weeks in the middle of the season, that's fine. You don't have to be 12-5. You don't have to be Kansas City and Buffalo and the Raiders and the Chargers and Dallas and Green Bay and Tampa. You don't have to run the table against those teams and say, we got to be the number 1 seed. No. Get in, be healthy, be ready to go. The Rams know how to take care of it from there. 12-5 would be nice, but it absolutely is not necessary. All right, so Von Miller was talking about leaving Los Angeles. Little bit of regret in there. We'll get into it next on Locked On Rams. You know, it's a good day at the Travis household when the Built Bars show up and they get left on the front door. The kids are fighting to get them open. I can't wait to get it open because it's one of those things that is a great choice because it's good for you. 160 calories, 15 grams of protein. They're filling, they're satisfying, and they just taste good, right? How about this? A new flavor. Indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built Bar has done it again. Cookie dough chunk puffs, like I mentioned, 160 calories, 15 grams of protein, and they taste great. Throw one in the kids' lunch, put one in your own backpack, put them in the desk. Any place you have those snacks where typically it's like, I probably shouldn't have eaten that. You will like eating the cookie dough chunk puffs, whether you need a snack for your workout, whatever it is. You just want to eat something that tastes good, go do it. Here's how you do it. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off of your order. Don't forget that promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com. Okay, so thanks again for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. My name is Travis Rogers. This is free and available wherever you get your podcast. Click that subscribe button so you get it every single day. He wasn't here very long, right? He wasn't here very long, but he had a pretty significant impact. And I'm talking about Von Miller. Of course, the Rams made the trade with the Broncos last year to go get one of the great players of his era who came into Los Angeles, who paired up with Aaron Donald and did exactly what the Rams were hoping he would do, which was give Donald some help, take a little bit of the pressure off, and do work defensively. And he did. and the Rams won the Super Bowl. Everybody seemed to get along with Von. Von was a great teammate, and it seemed like a really good fit moving forward. And we know what happened after that, right? He agreed to a 6-year, $120 million deal with the Buffalo Bills. And he's gone. And he went from Denver to Los Angeles, and now he's trying to become one of the very few, if not the only, in my memory, I want to say he's the only player to win a Super Bowl with 3 different teams, if in fact he can get it done with the Bills. He was talking about that, and he talked about how difficult of a decision it was for him to leave LA. He said, quote, this is Von Miller talking. It came to the very end. Coach McVay, they did everything they could possibly do. It's unfortunately that I'm not a Los Angeles Ram, but I'm a Buffalo Bill. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to go chase multiple Super Bowl rings with these guys. It's an honor and privilege to be here. He talks about this. I love being a Los Angeles Rams player. I love being there with all the guys. I created so many friendships and created so many brotherhoods in a short period of time. It was hard to let it go. He continues. By the way, this is right. This is a nice long answer. He said, this is one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life. I love all those guys at the Rams. And the hardest decision was not being able to rush with Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd and Greg Gaines. We had created something special each and every day. It was fun. Each and every day, it felt like the Pro Bowl. Leaving LA for Buffalo, it's tough. It's tough. I'm going to be completely honest with you. He goes on to say that really the only thing that could draw me away from that, the good weather in LA, is to come over here and become part of something special. What they're doing here is extremely special, and he talks about the Bills a little bit. Okay. Let me ask you guys a question. Does that sound like somebody that is thrilled with where they landed? Now, you heard what I said at the beginning, 6 years, $120 million. Man's going to be fine, right? There's planes that could take you out of Buffalo. Here's my takeaway from this. And I think this is good news for the Rams generally. It's bad news that Von Miller left. I do think that of all the things that happened this offseason, his decision to leave to go to Buffalo is potentially the most impactful from a football perspective that the Rams have. Losing Andrew Whitworth, I think, is number 2. But why I think there is good news in this, think about what he said. This was not we won, it was great, but I'm over here in Buffalo right now. That's not what the answer was. This was, listen, I'm going to take it out of the diplomatic speak of Von Miller, who's a very thoughtful guy, and just put it in the way that in your brain and my brain that you would say is, look, I had to go. They were offering me this much more guaranteed money. I had to do it. I don't want to leave. I love Coach McVay. I love playing in Los Angeles. They're on to something special. We won the Super Bowl. I think they got a chance to win the Super Bowl again. I would love to play with Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd and Greg Gaines, but it's the money. I got to take it. I get it. The good news is other guys won't. And that's not a criticism of Von Miller. Other guys will make the decision that's more like, I've made, especially a player like Von Miller. I won in Denver. I just won here. It's in Los Angeles. I'm surrounded by competency, right? And Buffalo, by the way, good team, good coach, good organization. Something you couldn't say about them in the not too distant past, but right now they got to figure it out. But this is an opportunity for me to stay and set up in a spot where I have tons of support. I have a coaching staff. I have a team that's committed to winning games. You've never heard a whisper about them cutting corners in certain areas. Why wouldn't I want to stay? Someone else will take a little bit less to stay. We'll see what happens with Jalen Ramsey moving forward. We'll see what happens with Odell Beckham Jr. moving forward. But I can't tell you how valuable it is. Look, I have friends that have played in the NFL. You've heard me talk about all the guys that I've been lucky enough to work with over the years. They talk to each other. And they say things like, you don't want to go play there. Man, that place sucks. Man, those guys are a joke. Those guys, they don't do this right. They don't do that right. They made me do this. No. And then there's, oh, man, I'd go play there again 100 times out of 100. And there's probably 10 teams that everybody likes. There's probably 10 teams that everybody hates. And then there's the middle, right? That probably, depending on your experience, you have a different opinion. The Rams are in the 10 teams that everybody seems to enjoy playing for. That's in large part because of Sean McVay. That's in large part because of the location of Los Angeles. That's in large part because of SoFi Stadium that's gotten built. And it's just the culture that the Rams have put out there of winning and of taking care of their guys. This wasn't, hey, listen, I had a great time in LA, but I'm thrilled to be here in Buffalo. That's how you know, nope, not for me. Not for me, right? When guys leave places like Cleveland or Jacksonville or these other places, but it's like, I mean, it was all right, but I'm just glad to be here. You don't hear a lot of guys say, yeah, it was a really hard decision. It was very difficult for me to walk away from that and then go through all the reasons why and how much they love the coach and the city and their teammates. I don't know if it's regret on Von Miller's part, but it's certainly understanding of how difficult a decision it was for him to walk away from something as good as the Rams were giving him last year. And I think that bodes well for the guys that may or may not have to make a similar decision moving forward. Okay, open job on the offense. They don't come around that often on the Los Angeles Rams. Who's got the inside track at right guard? It's coming up next on Locked On Rams. So the Rams offense is pretty well solidified, right? The Rams offense, you could take the 11 guys, the 11 positions, I should say, and I think you could probably write in 10 of them, 9.5 of them. One of the few spots that feels like it's genuinely open for competition coming into the season this year is at right guard. Okay, and this is a position that is open because Austin Corbett, of course, was their right guard last year on the Super Bowl team, and he left in free agency to go to Carolina. Let's talk about him for half a second and what the Rams might be looking for in replacing him from purely a football perspective. I was talking with somebody at the Rams not that long ago, and I asked him the question. I said, "Who are you most worried about not being here this year that was on the team last year?" And he surprised me a little bit and said that Austin Corbett was the answer to that question. I said, "Really? Okay. Well, why him?" And he said because he was the nasty. He was the guy that was the nasty, dirty, tough, physical guy on that offensive line. Now, obviously, you're an offensive lineman, you're tough and you're physical and you're all these things, but he brought a little element of nastiness to it that he thinks that the Rams may miss moving forward. And especially with the departure of Andrew Whitworth, he mentioned him. Those are the two guys because that was the nasty up front. That there are some of these other guys on the line that you got to get them mad to get them mad. They don't show up mad like Austin Corbett did. So with that in mind, I think that's something that Sean McVay is going to be looking for when you're talking about replacing your right guard. And there are basically two candidates for this. There is Coleman Shelton, who they gave an extension to in the offseason, who kind of gave them some offensive line depth last year. And then a guy that they drafted with one of their picks this year, Logan Bruss out of Wisconsin. Here's what Sean McVay had to say about it. We're really going to open it up and try to see what it looks like to find who's going to be that fifth player playing with the other four guys that are kind of established. We know the other four, right? So you're going on the side. You've got Bobby Evans. You've got, let's just go in order. You've got Andrew Whitworth on left tackle. You got Brian Allen at center. You got right guard open. And then obviously at right tackle, you've got Rob Havenstein. So that's your starting lineup right there. And then David Edwards. I forgot to mention him, the left guard. So David Edwards is your left guard. Your right guard is open. So you're trying to figure out who fits into that spot. Coleman Shelton is your backup center. He's been given some reps starting at right guard in this position. And the advantage that he has is that he's played NFL football before. Logan Bruss is green. Logan Bruss has not had a chance to compete at the highest levels. If he played in the Big Ten, that's a big deal. That's a really good league. He's played at Wisconsin, who makes offensive linemen about as good as anybody else. So that's a really good start. But he hasn't played in the league. And this is where the brutality and the viciousness of NFL football comes in. Somebody like with the player that we're talking about right now, right? Somebody like Coleman Shelton, who comes in and gets an opportunity to grab it and plays well, he'll hold on to it. If he has a hiccup, if he has a bad day, if he has a couple of penalties in a game, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, let's put Bruss in there, and he plays well and grabs it and holds on to it. Then all of a sudden, Coleman Shelton's back into a secondary role, a backup role. It's a tough league, and that's why these camp battles mean so much because they're not. Look, you go down. Van Jefferson is going to start. Tyler Higbee's going to start. Of course, Kupp and Allen Robinson are going to start. We just talked about the offensive line. Matthew Stafford's going to start. Cam Akers is going to be your starting running back. Right, that leaves one spot. You got a couple of guys that are going for it, and every single snap that takes place at camp is a big, big deal. And you heard it. Look, we're going to see who the best guy is. The good news is you have a little flexibility, and don't be surprised whether it's Bruss or whether it's Coleman Shelton, that if you don't see some hands right? Whether it's one of those joint workouts, whether it's a teammate that, oh, we're missing some nasty. Okay. I can fill the hole of nasty. I can be the guy that is willing to do the things that Coleman Shelton was willing to do. He's gone. I'll do it. I'll fill that void of somebody that's really willing to mix it up. Probably the only offensive battle that we're looking at in camp. It's good news because the Rams have got it kind of filled out, but it also not a ton to watch because we know who those other 10 guys are going to be. That's coming up next time on Locked On Rams. Don't forget, come on out and say hello. I'll be there 1 to 4 on Saturday afternoon, July 30th. Come on by, say, hey, Trav, I listen to that Locked On Rams podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen the Locked On NFL podcast. Our national NFL experts and insiders keeping you dialed in with the biggest stories and latest news from around the league, because an off season does not equal a break in the action. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.